There is something profoundly powerful about a life that is ordered, not controlled by chaos, not driven by impulse, not tossed about by circumstances, but aligned, that is structured with intention, directed with purpose, and aligned with a clear vision. Discipline is not punishment. It is the pathway to freedom. And organization is not limitation. It is the system that allows your purpose to flourish without distraction. Many people desire success, but few understand that success is not an event. It is a system. It is not something you stumble upon. It is something you build deliberately, one decision at a time. The tragedy is not that people lack dreams. The tragedy is that people lack the discipline to organize their lives around those dreams. You cannot fulfill a purpose you have not structured your life to support. Discipline creates freedom, not restriction, and this truth challenges one of the greatest misconceptions that holds people back from living a life of purpose and fulfillment, because many individuals believe that discipline is a form of punishment. Something that limits their choices, restricts their enjoyment, and forces them into a rigid existence. But in reality, discipline is the very force that liberates you from chaos, confusion, and inconsistency, because without discipline, your life becomes controlled by impulses, emotions, and external circumstances. And when you are driven by impulse, you are not truly free. You are simply reacting to whatever you feel in the moment, which means your decisions are not intentional but accidental. And accidental living never produces meaningful results. Therefore, discipline is not about taking away your freedom, but about giving you the power to choose your direction intentionally and consistently. Because true freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you feel like it. True freedom is the ability to do what you should do, even when you do not feel like it. And that level of control over your actions requires discipline. Because when you develop discipline, you gain mastery over your habits, your time, your thoughts, and your behavior. And this mastery removes the limitations that once held you back, such as procrastination, lack of focus, and inconsistency. And as these limitations disappear, you begin to experience a new kind of freedom, the freedom to grow, the freedom to achieve, and the freedom to fulfill your purpose. Because discipline structures your life in a way that eliminates unnecessary distractions and creates space for what truly matters. And when your life is organized through discipline, you are no longer overwhelmed by confusion or scattered by competing priorities. Instead, you become clear about your direction and intentional about your actions. And this clarity is what allows you to move forward with confidence and effectiveness, because a disciplined life is a focused life. And a focused life is a productive life, and productively leads to progress, and productively leads to progress, and progress leads to fulfillment. And fulfillment is one of the highest forms of freedom you can experience, because you are no longer wondering if your life has meaning. You are actively living it out. And discipline also frees you from the regret that comes from wasted time and missed opportunities, because when you lack discipline, you often look back and realize how much time was lost to distractions, how many opportunities were ignored, and how much potential was left unused. But when you discipline yourself, you begin to take control of your time and invest it wisely, which means you are building a future instead of drifting into one. And this intentional living removes the burden of regret and replaces it with a sense of purpose and direction. And discipline also protects you from the consequences of poor decisions, because many of the struggles people face are the result of undisciplined choices. Whether it is financial problems caused by lack of self-control, health issues caused by neglect, or broken relationships caused by inconsistency, but when you apply discipline, you create boundaries that guard your life against these negative outcomes. And these boundaries are not restrictions, they are protections. They are systems designed to keep you aligned with what is best for you. And in this way, discipline becomes a form of self-respect, because it reflects your commitment to your own growth and well-being. And as you continue to practice discipline, it begins to transform your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who lacks control, but as someone who is intentional, reliable, and focused. And this shift in identity reinforces your behavior, making discipline not just something you do, but something you are. And when discipline becomes part of who you are, it no longer feels like a burden. It becomes a natural expression of your commitment to excellence. And this is where true freedom is found, not in the absence of structure, but in the presence of it. Because structure provides direction, and direction leads to progress, And progress opens doors to opportunities that would never be available to a disorganized life. And as these opportunities increase, so does your capacity to influence, to create, and to contribute, which means your life begins to expand beyond limitations and into possibilities. And this expansion is the essence of freedom, because you are no longer confined by your weaknesses or controlled by your circumstances. You are empowered by your discipline to shape your future and fulfill your purpose with clarity, confidence, and consistency. Organization aligns your life with your purpose. And this alignment is the difference between a life that is merely busy and a life that is truly meaningful, because many people fill their days with activity, yet remain disconnected from the very reason they were created. And the problem is not a lack of effort, but a lack of structure that directs that effort toward a clear vision, because purpose is not fulfilled by chance. It is fulfilled by intentional living, and intentional living requires organization. Because when your life is disorganized, your energy is scattered across too many directions, your focus is diluted, and your time is consumed by things that do not contribute to your destiny. But when you begin to organize your life, you are essentially making a decision about what matters most. You are defining your priorities, and you are arranging your daily actions in a way that supports those priorities. And here's is where alignment begins, because your actions start to reflect your intentions, and your time starts to reflect your values, and your life begins to move in the direction of your purpose instead of drifting aimlessly. And alignment is powerful because it eliminates internal conflict. It removes the frustration of knowing what you should do but failing to do it, and it replaces it with clarity and consistency. Because when your life is organized around your purpose, every decision becomes easier. You no longer have to wonder how to spend your time or where to invest your energy, because your purpose becomes the filter through which all choices are made. And anything that does not support your purpose becomes easier to reject. And anything that contributes to it becomes easier to embrace. And this level of clarity is what gives your life direction, because without direction, even the greatest potential remains unused. But with direction, even small efforts produce significant results over time. An organization is what creates that direction. It is the system that connects your daily routines to your long-term vision. Because purpose is not something you only think about in the future. It is something you live out in the present through the way you structure your life. And this means that your schedule, your habits, your environment, and your relationships must all be aligned with where you are going. Because anything that is out of alignment will eventually create resistance, and resistance slows down progress. But when everything in your life is organized to support your purpose, you begin to move with greater ease and effectiveness. And your progress becomes more consistent, because you are no longer working against yourself, you are working with intention. And organization also helps you maximize your resources, because your time, your energy, and your abilities are limited, and if they are not properly managed, they can be wasted on things that have little or no value. But when you organize your life, you become a good steward of these resources. You allocate them wisely, you invest them strategically, and you ensure that they are being used in ways that produce meaningful outcomes. And this is essential because purpose requires investment. It requires time, focus, and effort. And without organization, these investments are often misdirected, tied. But with organization, they are concentrated on what truly matters. And this concentration is what produces results, because success is not about doing many things. It is about doing the right things consistently. And organization helps you identify and maintain those right actions. And as you continue to live in alignment with your purpose, you begin to experience a sense of fulfillment that cannot be found in a disorganized life. Because fulfillment comes from knowing that your life is moving in the right direction, that your efforts are meaningful, and that your actions are contributing to something greater than yourself. And this sense of purpose gives your life significance. It gives you motivation, and it gives you the strength to remain disciplined, even when challenges arise, because you understand that what you are doing matters, and that understanding is what sustains consistency over time. And organization also protects your purpose from distractions, because in a world full of noise and competing demands, it is easy to lose focus. But when your life is structured, you have boundaries that keep you centered, you have systems that keep you on track, and you have clarity that keeps you focused. And these elements work together to ensure that your purpose remains the central focus of your life. And as a result, you begin to see progress, not just in what you do, but in who you are becoming be. Because alignment does not only change your actions, it transforms your identity. You become more intentional, more focused, and more disciplined. And this transformation reinforces your ability to stay organized, creating a cycle of growth and improvement that continues to move you closer to your purpose. And ultimately, this is what organization is about. It is not just about order, it is about alignment. It is about bringing every aspect of your life into harmony with the vision you have been given so that you can live with clarity, act with intention, and fulfill your purpose with consistency and impact. Your habits shape your destiny and impact. Your habits shape your destiny, and this truth reveals that the life you experience is not determined by occasional decisions or rare moments of effort, but by the consistent patterns you repeat every single day. Because habits are the invisible forces that guide your actions, often without you even realizing it, and what you do daily becomes who you eventually become, which means your future is being built right now through the small choices you make. And many people underestimate the power of these small choices because they seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they accumulate and produce results that are either constructive or destructive. And this is why habits are so powerful, because they compound. Just like an investment grows with consistent deposits, your habits grow into outcomes that define your life. And if your habits are undisciplined, inconsistent, and unproductive, then your destiny will reflect those qualities. But if your habits are intentional, disciplined, and aligned with your purpose, then your destiny will begin to reflect growth, progress, and success. And this means that if you want to change your life, you must first change your habits, because transformation does not begin with a big decision. It begins with small, consistent actions that are repeated over time. And many people desire a different future, but are unwilling to adjust their daily routines. And this creates a contradiction, because you cannot expect different results while maintaining the same habits. And discipline plays a critical role here, because habits do not form by accident. They are developed through repetition and commitment. And in the beginning, discipline is required to establish a habit because it may feel uncomfortable or unnatural. But as you continue to practice, it becomes easier and eventually automatic. And once a habit becomes automatic, it no longer requires as much effort, which means it begins to work for you instead of against you. And this is why habits are either your greatest asset or your greatest liability, because they are constantly producing results, whether you are aware of it or not. And good habits create momentum in the right direction, while bad habits create momentum in the wrong direction. And momentum is powerful because it makes progress easier over time. Just like pushing an object becomes easier once it starts moving, maintaining positive habits becomes easier once they are established, and this momentum can transform your life because it reduces resistance and increases consistency. And inconsistency is what produces lasting results, not intensity. Because it is better to do something small every day than to do something big occasionally. And this principle applies to every area of your life, whether it is your personal growth, your work, your health, or your relationships. Because habits influence all aspects of your existence. And this means that every habit you develop is either moving you closer to your purpose or further away from it. And therefore, you must be intentional about the habits you allow into your life. You must evaluate them honestly and ask whether they are contributing to the person you want to become. And if they are not, then you must have the discipline to replace them with habits that do. Because change requires action, not just awareness. And while it is important to recognize unproductive patterns, it is even more important to take steps to correct them. And this process requires patience, because habits are not formed overnight and they are not broken instantly. But with consistent effort, they can be reshaped. And as you begin to replace negative habits with positive ones, you will start to see changes in your behavior, your mindset, and your results. And these changes will reinforce your commitment to continue. Because progress creates motivation, and motivation supports further progress, creating a cycle of growth that strengthens over time. And eventually your habits begin to define your identity, because you start to see yourself differently, not as someone who struggles with inconsistency, but as someone who is disciplined and intentional. And this shift in identity is powerful because it influences your decisions at a deeper level, making it easier to maintain positive habits and resist negative ones. And as this process continues, your life begins to move in a new direction, one that is aligned with your goals and your purpose. And this is how habits shape your destiny, not through one dramatic moment, but through thousands of small decisions that are repeated daily. And when you understand this, you begin to take responsibility for your actions in a new way. You realize that every choice matters, that every routine has significance, and that every habit is building your future. And this awareness empowers you to live more intentionally, to act more consistently, and to commit more fully to the process of growth, because you know that your destiny is not something that happens to you, it is something that is created by you through the habit. So you choose to develop and maintain every single day. Control your time, or it will control you. And this is one of the most important principles for anyone who desires to live a life of purpose, productivity, and fulfillment. Because time is the one resource that is equally given to everyone, yet used so differently. And the difference between a life of impact and a life of regret is often found in how time is managed. Because time does not pause, it does not wait, and it does not negotiate. It moves forward consistently whether you are prepared or not. And if you do not take intentional control of it, then it will be consumed by distractions, interruptions, and low priority activities that do not contribute to your growth or your purpose. And this is how many people lose years of their lives without realizing it, not through one major mistake, but through daily mismanagement of their time, because every day that passes without direction is a day that cannot be recovered. And this is why controlling your time is not optional. It is essential, because time is the container of your life. Everything you will ever do, become, or achieve must happen within the limits of time. And if you do not organize how that time is used, then your life will become disorganized by default. Because something will always demand your attention, whether it is social media, unnecessary conversations, or unplanned obligations. And if you are not careful, these demands will take over your schedule and leave little room for what truly matters. And this is how time begins to control you. It dictates your day. It decides your priorities, and it determines your outcomes, not because it has power over you, but because you have not taken responsibility for it. And responsibility is the key to control. Because when you accept that your time is your responsibility, you begin to make intentional decisions about how it is spent. You begin to plan your day with purpose. You begin to set boundaries that protect your focus, and you begin to align your schedule with your goals. And this is where transformation begins. Because when you control your time, you control your time, you control your actions. And when you control your actions, you control your results. And this connection is what many people overlook. They want better results, but they do not change how they use their time. And as a result, they remain stuck in the same patterns. But when you take control of your time, you break those patterns and create new ones that support your growth. And controlling your time requires discipline, because it often means doing what is necessary instead of what is convenient. It means prioritizing long-term value over short-term pleasure. And it means being intentional even when you do not feel like it, because feelings are unreliable, but time is constant. And if you allow your feelings to determine how you use your time, you will often choose comfort over progress. But when you discipline yourself to follow a plan, you begin to use your time in ways that produce meaningful results. And this is where productivity increases. Because you are no longer reacting to your day, you are directing it, and direction creates efficiency. It reduces wasted effort, and it allows you to focus on what truly matters. And as your focus improves, so does your output. And as your output improves, so does your progress. And this progress creates momentum, which makes it easier to continue managing your time effectively. And over time, this becomes a habit, a way of living that prioritizes purpose over distraction. And as this habit develops, you begin to notice a significant change in your life. You have more clarity, more control, and more confidence, because you are no longer overwhelmed by your responsibilities. You are managing them with intention. And this sense of control brings peace. But because you know that your time is being used wisely, that your efforts are aligned with your goals, and that your life is moving in the right direction. And controlling your time also requires you to make decisions about what not to do. Because time is limited and you cannot do everything, which means you must be selective. You must identify what is truly important and give your attention to those things while eliminating or reducing activities that do not add value. And this is not always easy, because it may require you to say no to certain opportunities or to step away from habits that have become comfortable. But these decisions are necessary, because every yes is also a no to something else. And if you say yes to the wrong things, you will have no time left for the right things. And this is why clarity of purpose is essential in time management, because it helps you make better decisions. It guides your priorities, And it ensures that your time is being invested rather than wasted. And ultimately, this is what it means to control your time. It means you are intentional, disciplined, and focused. It means you are not allowing external forces to dictate your life. And it means you are taking full responsibility for how your most valuable resource is used, because when you control your time, you take control of your life. And when you take control of your life, you position yourself to achieve your goals, fulfill your purpose, and create a future that reflects your highest potential rather than your lowest habits.